then to collapse the entire building on all the Philistines, all the heathen. He killed all of them.
This is Colossians chapter 2, verse 17. And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of Adonai Yahweh Shai. 2 and 17. Which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Hamashiach. Let no man beguile you of your reward in a voluntary humility and worshiping of angels, introducing into those things which
read verse 16.
Okay, verse 16. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day, or of the new moon or of the Sabbath day, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Mashiach.
Right, so those things, you know, like that's written in the law, these are a shadow of things to come. You know, and if you ever looked at a shadow, like a shadow, if you look at a shadow is a reflection of what the object is, but the shadow is not the object itself. You know, so you look at a shadow, you know, you can be like, okay, this is, you know, kind of what it looks like, but I haven't seen the actual thing itself. Like, if you ever been walking and you see somebody, you know, because sometimes your shadow is before you, depending on which direction you're facing, you will see your shadow before you actually see yourself. And so when you see a shadow, you'll be like, okay, it got this shape, you know, and then when you see, you know, what it is, then, you know, you get an idea of, okay, this is actually what it is. You know,
or in literature, you learn the word foreshadowing. To foreshadow is to have an understanding of things that's going to happen before it actually happens, which is basically the same thing as prophesying.
You get Romans 15, 20. Yeah, 15 to 20.
This is Romans chapter 15, verse 20. Yea, so have I strived to preach the gospel, not where Hamashiach was named. For this is Romans chapter 15, verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetimes were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of scriptures might have hope.
Right, so the things that was written before time was written for our learning, to give us an idea, you know, of what's happening, what's, you know, an idea of what's going to happen. You know, like Elisha, you know, he had, you know, spiritual power. You know, he actually made a piece of iron float. You know, that was an example of spiritual power.
Telekinesis. There you go, telekinesis.
Right, he had a lot of spirit.
That man-eater.
He asked for a double portion of Elijah's spirit. You know, and you know, he was granted that. You know, so he was doing a lot of stuff.
Simon. Who was asking for the father? This day asking the father again.
I believe it was. Can you get 2 Kings 4 from that because is where it lists.
2 Kings 4.
I want to say 24.
2 Kings chapter 4. It's verse 44. For he said it before them.
Go ahead.
Read it before first verse.
Okay, matter of fact, read verse 14 and I'll find out.
This is 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 14. And he said, what then is to be done of her?
Matter of fact, start with verse 12.
Verse 12. And he said to Gehazi, and he said to Gehazi, his servant, call this Shunammite, and when he had called her, she stood before him. And he said unto her, say now unto her, behold, thou hast been careful with us with all this care, what is to be done of thee, what is thou be spoken for to the king or to the captain of the host? And she answered, I dwell among my own people. I dwell among my own people. And he said, what then is to be done with her? And Gehazi answered, verily she hath no child, and her husband is old.
Right, so she can have children. You know, so keep going.
And he said, call her. And when he had called her, she stood in the door. And he said, about this season, according to the time of life, thou shalt embrace a son. And she said, nay, my lord, thou man of Yahweh, do not lie unto thy handmaid. And the woman conceived and bare a son at the season that Elisha had said unto her, according to the time of life.
Right, so she ended up bearing a child, you know, and ultimately, you know, prayed, you know, and the Most High granted that prayer, and you know, she was able to conceive, you know, but it was, you know, through, the Most High used the prophet Elisha, you know, to use that miracle, you know, so that was another example of, you know, him having spiritual power. And can you go to 2 Kings chapter 4 and matter of fact, 5 and verse 20. Chapter 5.
2 Kings.
Yep.
This is 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 20. But Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of Yahweh, said, behold, my master has spared Naaman, this Assyrian, and not receiving at his hands that which he brought. But as the Most High liveth, I will run after him and take somewhat of him. So Gehazi followed after Naaman, and when Naaman saw him running after him, he lightened down from the chariot to meet him and said, it's all well.
Because Nahum had just asked, you know, like he basically, Nahum. He had basically asked, Elisha after he healed him. He said, "Can I give you something?" And you know, he was like, "No, you know, he wasn't in the, you know, he was like, you can keep it. Go ahead." And basically, he's coming to him. He was like, "Man, are you serious?" Like he basically coveted those things, and he wanted to get them.
And he said, all is well. My master have sent me, saying, behold, even now there be come to me, even now there be come to me from Mount Ephraim 2 young men of the sons of the prophets. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver and 2 charges of garments. And Nahum said,
right, so he was lying basically, you know. So he basically said, my master said such and such, you know, or that basically gossip and stuff. Go ahead.
And he urged him and bound 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 charges of garments, and laid them upon 2 of his servants, and they bare them before him. And when he came to the tower, he took them from their hand and bestowed them in the house. And he let the men go, and they departed. And he went in and stood before his master. And Elisha said unto him, whence comest thou, Gehazi? And he said, thou servant went no hither, or whither. And he said unto him, went not my heart with thee when the man turned again from his chariot to meet thee? Is it a time to receive money and to receive garments and olive yard and vineyard, and sheep and oxen, and men servants and maid servants. The leprosy therefore of Nahum shall cleave unto thee and unto the seed for thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence and leper as white as snow.
Right, so he basically cursed him. And, you know, he was a leper, you know, so he wanted to, you know, deceive and, you know, and receive that blessing, you know, which Elisha said, you know, he told him he can keep it, but he went in, basically in a roundabout way, and, you know, Elisha tried to tell him, you know, this ain't the time to be receiving gifts, and, you know, he wanted to get it anyways, you know, so he went about doing it in a deceiving manner, you know, so that was another example of spiritual power. You hold that thing?
No.
So you get 2 Kings, matter of fact, you already in 2 Kings, 2 Kings chapter 6. You want this on?
2 Kings chapter 6, verse 1. And the sons of the prophets said unto Elisha, Behold, now the place where we dwell with thee is too strait for us. Let us go, and we pray thee unto Jordan, and take thence every man a beam, and let us make us a place there, where we may dwell. And he answered, Go ye. And one said, Be content, I pray thee, and go with thy servants. And he answered, I will go. So he went with them.
So they basically was going to go chop down trees. Go ahead.
And when they came to Jordan, they cut down wood.
Now, right by by Jordan, you got the river, basically the river Jordan, Jordan River. You know, they're chopping trees down. Go ahead.
But as one was felling a beam, the axe head fell into the water, and he cried and said, Alas, master, for it was borrowed.
Right. So now you got like an axe. You know, you got the wooden handle, then you got the iron axe on it. So he's chopping the wood. You know, chopping the wood, and you fling it backwards, and then the piece of iron flies off, and then it goes into the water. Doop. The loop. Right.
Yeah, the loop. And the man,
and he said, you know, he was like, "Fuck, that wasn't mine." You know, he said it was borrowed.
And the man of Yahweh said, Where fell it? And he showed him the place. And he cut down a stick and cast it in thither, and the iron did swim.
So he cut off a tree, then cast it to the water, then the iron rose up, and that was a miracle that he did.
Cast through a piece of wood, the iron flowed up. Isn't that like water bending? No. But therefore he said, Take it up to thee, and he put out his hand and took it. Then the king of Syria warred against Israel and took counsel with his servant.
That's good. But that was another example of a spiritual power. You know, he made, you know, basically iron afloat. You know, and who can do that? Shit. You know, can we do that? You know, unless you got the faith of a mustard seed, you can't do that.
I'm trying.
Can you get 2 and 20, chapter 2, verse 23 as well?
2 Kings 2 and 23.
Yep.
This is 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 23. And he went up from thence unto Belial, and as he was going
this
up,
is talking about Elisha. Go ahead.
And as he was going up, by the way, there came forth little children out the city, and mocked him and said unto him, Go up, thou bald head, go up, thou bald head. And he turned back and looked at them and cursed them in the name of Yahweh Shem Yahshai.
You know, Elisha was bald headed, and he was basically going up in a mountain. And one thing that, you know, what people do is that, you know, when you're going through stress, you actually would shave your head and, you know, go on top of a mountain and more. And, you know, they probably thought that he was just, you know, going up to do that. You know, he was actually going up in the mountain. You know, they was probably like laughing, thinking like he was in distress. Like, look at it, you know, you know, like laughing at your, you know, somebody's distress. You know, just like how you see, you know, little badass kids today, you know. So he was just minding his business, going up.
It's because his boy left.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Keep reading.
Baby kids. And he turned back and looked on them and cursed them in the name of Yahweh Shem Yahshai. And there came forth 2 she-bears out of the wood, and tore 50 and 2 children of them.
Right, so that's another example of spiritual power. It actually says you're gonna see beasts, you know, in Sirach. You know, you're gonna see wild beasts that are newly created. You know, you see these bears, you know, they came and fucked these kids up, you know, and
2 sheep.
right, that's you know,
Big ass bear.
you know, kids, you know, they kind of somewhat fast, but you know, they had to be biting one, kill one, to go to another one, you know, because they had to be dispersed, and you know, they caught all their little asses.
Got hit with the conflict panda paws.
God, he got, and that was basically, like I was saying, another example of spiritual power. You get 1 Corinthians 15.
But that also showed that the prophets, the men of the Lord, they didn't care. If you're not with the Most High, you're against him. So it don't matter if you're a child, you're an old ass woman, fucking cracker. It don't matter who you are. You can get it regardless.
This is 1 Corinthians chapter 15, starting from verse 50. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of the Most High power, neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment. That's what I want. Okay. But in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, the trumpets shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible. We shall be changed. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass